we do have a lead paint law in Philadelphia, as you all know, and there's been a lot of pluses to it, right? We now know where there's lead paint, and so we've got fewer young people who are being poisoned by lead paint, which is great news. Another plus that came from it is there was, for those of us who care very deeply about making sure that landlords have licenses, so we know where, who the landlord is, how to reach them in case there's an emergency, a variety of other things. We found there was many properties that weren't licensed, so we got them licensed. That's great news. And I understand that there's a cost associated with the lead paint test, but it is a small swipe test. Lots of positives. I understand there is a cost associated with it. I understand it is seen to some of you as a burden, but again, you can't offset the health and safety of our young people and our houses for that. So appreciate all that you have, all that you do to make sure that that happens properly.
We've seen a significant reduction in exposure to lead in our young people based on recent studies that have been done on the state. We've literally seen rates of lead cut in half as a result of the work that the city has done, that the state has done, that you have done. One of the things that we prioritize as the Philadelphia delegation is to ensure that we are finding resources that are available to support you in addressing some of the initiatives that we're requiring you to do. And one of the projects I had the ability to work on was partnering with a local nonprofit called Achievability in the southern part of my district, where there's a significant level of lead exposure. We were able to find them a grant to partner up with landlords, to partner up with private homeowners to help them offset the cost of remediating the lead in the homes, but also to provide the much needed repairs that were needed in an effort to ensure that tenants were stayed healthy.
Let's be clear. I think we much of, I'd say all three of us care very deeply about affordable housing. We care very deeply about increasing the stock of affordable housing and indeed housing more generally. But we also know that affordable rental housing is, in fact, a lot of it is your housing. And there have been so many challenges that threaten to put that housing out of reach, repairs, et cetera. And, lead abatement can be one of them. Let's be clear that there is no safe exposure to lead. So it is really critical. There's just no, it has to be done. In the whole home repairs legislation that we were able to get adopted, my colleague in the state legislature, much of the discussion about the program has been about the homeowner supports, but there is the funding is also there for, at least in statute, for small landlords. The way it operates is it operates in the form of a forgivable loan that after a certain period, as long as you maintain a certain level of affordability in your apartments, you can make needed repairs up to $50,000.
I think with regard to lead, we can all agree that lead is a problem. Mm-hmm. Okay, and lead needs to be taken care of. Every single unit has to be tested for lead before the property is rented. One of the problems that we're still experiencing, though, that I think we can address together, is that the penalty, if the landlord doesn't comply, and complying means that the landlord has the test done and gives a copy to the tenant and has the tenant sign that they've received it. If that's not done, then the tenant, at some point in the future, not only doesn't have to pay the rent, but can get an abatement of the rent, meaning all the rent that they paid since the beginning of the lease, they can now sue to get that money back. So one of the things I would say is if we could fix that penalty piece of this, that would go a long way. And the penalty piece would only not kick in if the landlord didn't have a lead problem.